John here. So I am predicting some massive migration to Florida over the next 2 to 3 months. I believe we're going to see so many people moving to South Florida as well as Tampa and St. Pete and everywhere in between as the lifestyle, the no income taxes and all the financial incentives, as well as some certain lifestyle improvements that some would say that Florida now offers in comparison to a lot of other states. What we're going to likely see, especially over the holiday season, is more and more people going on Zillow, going on Redfin, going on Trulia, looking at homes for rent, homes for sale, and understanding what they can get, what bang for their buck they can get. Because if you look at these expensive places like Boston, LA, New York, a lot of these cities are going through a massive change. And people are going to look to take their capital, their employment, their employees, and their job opportunities to places like Florida. I'm going to say what's up in this chat, and then I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And let me know what you guys think about all this. One second, I'm going to pull this up. So as of right now, about 1,000 people are moving to Florida every single day. This came out about 3 months ago, or excuse me, about 15 months ago. So ever since then, it's been ranging between 1,100 a day and 700 per day, every single day. 900 May 21. They said about 330,000 people moved, and then it went as low as about 900 people a day are moving. And if you look at some of the fastest growing metro areas outside of the 150 most populous in the US. This is, 3 weeks ago, not even. Look at the states: Sarasota, Florida; Fort Myers, Florida; Naples, Florida; Lakeland, Florida; Cala, Florida; Daytona Beach, Florida; Port St. Lucie, Florida; Orlando, Florida; Melbourne, Florida. As well as, Miami and a lot of other places all throughout Florida. People are moving to. But one of the main advantages is when you look at what's going on in Florida compared to literally everywhere else, people are realizing, hey, for 500 grand, if I were to live in Connecticut, if I were to live in New York or LA, I would live in a shack. And in Florida, I could live in a pretty nice house, not far from the bay or the ocean, or, you can get something still pretty nice for 500K in Florida. And right now, they are really, really stepping up. This came out today. And how this is going to play out here. And this is another big, big reason. I think this is actually probably going to be one of the main key drivers that's going to force a lot of eyes on Florida, is going to be a lot of these new provisions. So after the passage of this statute on November 17th, employers and employees in Florida were left with new rules, right? But this is where it gets interesting. So as previously discussed, the new Florida law prohibits private employees from imposing this, right, without providing individual exemptions, allowing an employee to opt out of such based on one of 5 reasons. While several questions still remain about the implementation of the new law, the Florida Department of Legal Affairs, a department in the Attorney General's office, issued a clarification that provides employers with some guidance. Notably, the following terms have been defined, right? So as noted, the emergency rule provides some definitions to be used. So first, the term department, which is charged with enforcing the law, is defined as the Department of Legal Affairs. Employees, right? So listen to this. Next, employee is defined by any person who receives communication from the private employer in the performance of work or services occurring within the state while engaged in employment, right? Meet 4 or more of the following criteria. So in further describing the exemption for independent contractors, the emergency rule sets out a high bar for what the independent contractor is, and one that is different from the definition that has been developed. So maintains a separate business with their own work facility, truck, equipment, materials, similar accommodations, a part of the private employer, holds or has applied for federal and EIN, right? Federal Unemployment Employer Identification Number, which is, if you were to form a corporation or, any type of, your own private enterprise, essentially, receives a compensation for services rendered for work performed, and such compensation is paid to a business other than private employer rather than doing individual work, holds one or more bank accounts in the name of a business entity other than private employer for purposes of paying business expenses or other expenses related to services rendered or work performed for compensation. Performs work. So they give all of these different outs, right? All of these different outs where, people, this is what I'm thinking is going to happen. So when we go through this, what percentage of people actually work from home? Between 22% and 42% from 2019 to 2020. I think that number is probably closer to the 42% now, if not higher. And this is going to be huge, absolutely massive, and nobody's really talking about it. So this new modification, so this applies to workers, companies with 100 or more, right? Employees, included companies must provide paid time off for workers to go, and workers recovering from this, right? After receiving it. The mandate specifies, we look at this, employers who don't, 14,000 per violation. It actually goes much higher than that. With multiple, I believe it's closer to 100,000, between 50 and 100. Let's see if it's on this article. Yeah, it's between 50 and 100 if you are, let's see here. I'll type it in right now. $136. That's not a joke. 136,000. So even if you are let's say an attorney, and you have 10 attorneys under you, is one attorney worth 136K? Maybe if it's a partner, but not every week, not every month, right? And so a lot of employers are going to be thinking that same thing. 4 weeks ago, they were saying they were throwing big numbers out like this. I mean, still 100K is a huge number. But yeah, I mean, look, this came out today, right? So Boston is bringing this to entertainment venues, gyms, right? So Boston today. Then we have Philly last week, right? Then we have Connecticut today. And so how Connecticut's working, they announced today and the launch of this version for the digital, allowing state residents to upload this, right, to their smartphones. So what we're going to see, I think, is people from Connecticut, Philly, Boston, LA, Colorado, because Colorado is part of it too. If they say, I'm throwing this number out. So let's just say hypothetically, they said this is going to impact 84 million workers overall. Let's say for easy numbers, let's say that 50% are not going to, right? So you're talking, 42 million workers, right? So 42 million, say that 60%, let's even say 70% of those, right? So what would that number be? If you were to just say 70%, or better yet, 30% is the difference. 30% of 42 million. This is, again, just hypothetical. It's still 12.6 million people that would lose their job. So if you look at like the population of, let's say, New York, is, let's see here, population in New Jersey. So population in New York is 8.5 million. So essentially New York City. So you're talking about the population of New York City plus half the population of New Jersey could lose their job in the coming 2 weeks. Where do you think these people are going to go? These people, I think, are going to go to places where they can possibly work, where they can save tax-wise, because Connecticut, New York, California, they're all very high tax states, very high, really expensive states to live in. You can go to Florida, you can still get an affordable place to live for a few $100,000, which at today's interest rates at say 3% on a 30-year fixed rate, you're still probably cheaper going out there buying a single family home, even if the market is super inflated compared to what it was a couple of years ago, and being able to find employment. That's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see so many people start exploring the option of going to Florida. Now, right now, for example, in New York, the average home price, $779,000. Los Angeles, 725,000. Colorado, 500,000. Louisiana, of course, is a cheap one, but 190,000. And then even Connecticut, you have homes at 329,000. But if a lot of the people that are living in Connecticut, there's some very, very expensive sections of Connecticut. So what I think is going to happen is I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are in New York that also own residences in Connecticut or have businesses in Connecticut or in New York that live in Connecticut. They're going to start relocating their businesses to Florida because they can do so and they will be able to save tax-wise, and they'll probably have an easier time actually running and conducting their business. That's why if you look at, ARC with Kathy, she moved to St. Pete, I think like maybe 2 months ago. You have Carl Icahn moved to Miami. You have a lot of really big companies moving to South Florida. I'm not saying that it's going to happen and stay that way forever, but I think that Florida is probably going to have a really good run, probably the next 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. So right now in Florida, home prices jumped 19.5% from September of 2020 to September of 2021. So to put that in context, typical home appreciation is somewhere around 3% a year. So you have almost a decade's worth of home appreciation inside of 12 months. So, I mean, that just goes to show you how far property values have, as a median have risen. And right now with no income tax, and this is going to get really interesting too. And this is why I think even New York is going to have even more of a exodus. This just came out 2 days ago. And this new guidance for private employers, right? And so on December 15th, New York City followed up with this, right, for private employers. Scroll down here. And all the order defines a covered entity as any private entity that employs more than one worker or maintains a workplace in New York City, or any self-employed individual or sole practitioner who works within a workplace or interacts with other workers or the public in the course of doing business. This broad definition includes not-for-profit organizations, non-governmental agencies, and religious institutions. The order's definition of worker and workplace are likewise expansive. Any individual who works in person in New York City at a workplace is covered, whether full or part-time, paid or unpaid, as an employee, volunteer, intern, independent contractor, any place, including a vehicle where a worker is on the job in the presence of anyone else, whether a coworker or a member of the public, falls under the order's definition and is covered. That's New York. So explicitly excluded by the order are any individuals who work remotely from their own home and do not interact in person with any coworkers or members of the public in the course of their employment, as well as anyone who may enter a workplace for a quick or limited purpose. In addition, the order does not apply to such of these non-New York City residents who are performing artists, athletes, or individuals accompanying such performing artists. So the other thing that we're going to have to take a hard look at is the people that are living in these cities, even if they are fully accepted of all of this, right? Say they are. They might still be a little bit hesitant because they might lose some of the nightlife, some of the experience, that socializing, the public interaction, the enjoyment of being in that city is going to, obviously change for a lot of people, regardless of, anything. It's going to be a different type of experience. And then the people are going to ask themselves, is this completely fine? Am I fine paying $5,000 a month for a one bedroom? Or, in LA, you can get a place in downtown LA, like 8th and Grand, which isn't that great of an area. It's decent, still not the safest place at night. You're going to pay $3,500 for one of those in downtown LA for a one bedroom. In New York, you can spend $4,000 easily and be in like a so-so neighborhood where you're not going to walk your dog at night. And for that same money, you can go get a 30-year fixed rate, 30-year fixed rate loan on a nice property, probably in Boca for $3,500, $800,000 property, put $150,000 down, put 20% down, and then go get that property for $3,500, write off a lot on that property, have a primary residence, have a homestead in Florida, with some great tax benefits. And that, I think, is what's going to be the future. I think that people are going to be really going to places like Texas, places like Florida, and we're going to see more people seeking apartments and homes than there are available, which is ultimately going to be a really, really good example of supply and demand. Supply and demand dictate price. When there's more supply than demand, values fall. When there's more demand than supply, values increase. This is what I think is going to be a very, very big turning point for the Florida real estate market, Q1 and Q2 in 2022, no doubt. That's my belief. I mean, I have a property listed there for sale right now that I bought Monday. The market's just hot. The market's insane, but I don't think it's going to be a very long-lasting thing. I don't think that Florida is going to be, just like this forever. Something could happen where, the economy takes a different direction. Maybe there's a different way of doing things in Florida, and it's no longer the key place. So I think one of the most important things that people are going to realize over the next 1 year, maybe 2 years, is going to be flexibility. It's going to be able to pivot with the times. It's going to be able to have multiple streams of income and be able to move and enjoy life and have a say in how you live, where you work, and who you enjoy time with. What do you guys think about this? Do you guys agree with me? Do you think that we're going to start to see a lot of people leaving places like LA, New York, Denver, Boston, Philly, and going to places that are more like South Florida, or even St. Pete? St. Pete's beautiful. Tampa's really nice. There's a lot of Naples is getting a lot of attention there. So I think that we're going to start to see these markets pick up a ton. The big question, though, is what's going to be crazy is going to be how, if we look at what's happening in Turkey right now with their currency, it's getting punished. And we're following a lot of the same patterns that Turkey followed last couple of years, and their currency is just getting pummeled. So I'm hoping that, this obviously doesn't continue happening to the dollar, but regardless, I think it's going to be key. If you're in a state right now and you say, this is where I want to be long-term, you definitely don't want to be a renter over the next 5 years, because you don't want to be a victim to the rental market. If there's a situation where, let's say, there's so many people that can't qualify for home loans, there's going to be more demand for apartments, right? And then landlords are going to have the control over that. So make sure that if you are going to live somewhere, you're owning the property. And I would suggest the multifamily, like a triplex or a fourplex before a single family house, just to, again, give you more options to pivot with multiple income streams coming in from the structure. Building a house in Cape Coral, congrats. I like SD, South Dakota. I hear a lot of people talk about that as well. Definitely let's smash that like button. YouTube will share the content, educate more people. What's up, Jay? How you doing, man? Hey, Ann. Love here, moved from Long Island 7 years ago. Miami. Yep. I got a lot of people, a lot of even friends moving to Miami. Try looking for a remote job, but you have to live in certain states. Like these corporations know it's ahead. Interesting. I moved to Florida 8 months ago, and it was very interesting. That move was it was kind of sporadic. I was like, oh, I'm not really sure where I'm going to go, and we're just going to go out there. And we went out there, we checked it out. We're like, it's okay. We went to Philadelphia and we looked around Philly. And we're like, no, definitely not living here. We went back to Florida. We're like, okay, we're just going to sign a 6-month lease. We signed one and we're like, okay, we're just going to stay here. It kind of grew on us because, for our lifestyle, Florida is more in line with, with where we're at. Should I buy? It depends on it. You definitely don't want to be heavily leveraged. So if you are going to buy, make sure it's going to be something you can easily afford. Jenny in West Boca. Hey, Jenny. I have family in Boca. Yeah, I'm not far from Boca. New York, I told you, I was there a couple, like a week and a half ago, just to visit, to experience what New York was like. And everything that they say is true. Yeah. Your video content, let's see here. It's a long time. Yep. I'm launching a business. I am launching a business I'm working like 15 hours a day on. So I hop on these live streams. I try to do them every, once a day or every other day. But I'm launching a business next week, and I have like a full team on it. We're working, feels like 24/7. So I hop on these live streams, give you guys a quick update. I'm going to be bringing back my normal traditional videos in about probably a week or so. I'm still going to do live streams, but yeah. Currently in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My lease is up the July 22nd. Yep. St. Augustine, St. John County, overbuilt with inadequate roads. Yeah, we're going to see some really, really, really big changes coming to the real estate market. Do you guys think Florida real estate market is going to increase by double digits like it did last year, where it increased roughly 20% in a single year? Do you think that could happen again? We saw also what happened in 2008 with Miami. If it wasn't for everything that's happening in Florida right now in that market, there's no way that they would have the amount of eyes, wealthy eyes on that state that they do right now. Like, there's absolutely no way. Even where I'm at right now, a decent house, like a so-so house, is still like 1.4, 1.5, which is very comparable to Los Angeles. Like, I just sold my house in LA for 1.4, which is crazy because the market is just crazy over there compared to but I'm optimistic. Yes, double digits, 100%. I like it. I've been here for 23 years from the Rockford. Yeah. All right, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next live stream. Hit the notification bell and subscribe here, and I'll see you guys in the next one.